Hello, and welcome back to another episode on Let's Talk Football Careers with myself, Barry, and today's special guest, Matt Le Tissier. How you doing, Matt?
Very good, thanks, Barry. And you?
Amazing. Yeah, I was telling you, it's been a very busy day, but thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'll just do a little summary with yourself here, Matt. For your career, you've played over 500 games, scored over 200 goals, born, your birthday's coming up, born on the 14th of October 1968. Now, Everett Dean here, creative midfielder, spent entire career at Southampton and affectionately known as Le God around the local area. How does that feel when you hear all that?
Yeah, that was pretty cool to get a nickname like that. I think it kind of showed just how highly the Southampton fans thought of me in the mid-90s when things were going well.
It's great times, wasn't it? I mean, I can remember it well. The Premiership was at its peak, and even before that, when we come through. But if we could start right back at the start, Matt. So you grew up in Guernsey. I believe you had a trial at Oxford before you went to Southampton. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. In fact, I actually moved to Oxford when I was
All right.
14 and tried to go to school in Oxford. And I think I lasted 2 days at this school, which um, wasn't the most welcoming place I'd ever been to, and yeah, felt very alone there. Felt like I didn't really belong there. So after a couple of days, I decided that it wasn't really for me, and I went back to Guernsey and finished my schooling back there. Uh,
Right.
and then I had a trial at Southampton, and they signed me after a week's trial. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah,
I
pretty
finished
much.
my schooling back in Guernsey.
Mhm. I've got here you signed a YTS contract in 1985-86 season. So, I mean, how is the new environment, the facilities, the coaching, all different from nowadays, obviously, and the structure of everything?
Yeah, the facilities are very different, that's for sure. It was pretty basic. Our training ground at the time was actually a piece of land that was owned by the University of Southampton. So we were kind of just training on these pitches that right next to the M27 motorway, completely exposed to the elements. So yeah, training there in the winter was pretty harsh. It wasn't until I think 1991 when we actually moved into our own training ground when we went to Staplewood, which is where they still are now, although that's obviously expanded and been redeveloped and looks nothing like what it did when we first moved in there.
It's so
So
different. Yeah.
so yeah, it's changed a lot down the years. I can tell you that much. I mean
Yeah.
that YTS contract I signed back in 1985. That was £26 a week for the first season, and it went up to £35 a week in the second season.
Unreal. It's so different now. I mean, you see guys that, they're 17, 18-year-old, hardly kick the ball, and they're on thousands of pounds a week. It's mad. And they've got everything there to help them. But could I take you back to your debut? I believe it was against Norwich, and it was unfortunately a 4-3 defeat. But what can you remember? Can you take yourself right back to making your debut? And you're, 19, were you? 18, 19?
17, I was.
Are you as young as that?
Yeah, I was 17, and to be honest, I don't really remember too much about that. I think I had like 15 minutes. I came off for 15 minutes at the end of the game. I don't remember doing anything that was going to stick in anyone's memory. Um, it was 3-2 when I went on. I think we ended up losing 4-3. Um, so yeah, that was kind of. Yeah, I mean, it was. I remember obviously being very excited going up first team game, full stadium, and all that stuff, and so that was pretty cool. Um, but I think I kind of have a much more vivid memories of my full debut, which happened on the Tuesday after.
Right. And who was that against?
So that was against Spurs,
Ah, right.
which was actually the team that I supported as a boy, ironically enough, and my hero as a boy was Glenn Hoddle, and
Mhm.
yeah, I was lucky enough that when I made my full debut, Glenn was on the opposing side, so that was
It's
pretty
funny
cool.
you
And
say that because I can see a lot of your game in Glenn's Hoddle's game as well. Obviously, in different elements, you could do things that he couldn't, but you can see even the way you were sort of built and everything. There, you can see it.
no, I definitely modelled my game on what Glenn could do. So the long range passing, the shooting from outside the box, the good close control. There was, yeah, he was definitely the one that I tried to emulate.
It's interesting. See, at the time when you joined there, I've written down a few key names here, right? I've got Alan Shearer, Peter Shilton, and I've got Colin Clark was the top scorer. Jimmy Case was there. It was, I mean, you were right in at the deep end, weren't you?
I was indeed. So I can tell you that my first year as an apprentice, because obviously back in those days we also, still cleaned the boots back then of the pros, and I was given 2 professional players to look after, and one of them was David Armstrong. God rest his soul. He passed away a couple of years ago now, I think. And the other one was Joe Jordan.
Oh wow, fellow Scot.
So you'll being a Scotsman, you'll know all about Joe Jordan
Yeah.
and how fierce a competitor he was. And so yeah, it was a pretty strong changing room that Southampton had back in those days. With as you say, Peter Shilton was in goal. We had people like Mark Wright, who obviously played for England, centre back. Mark Dennis was in the team, who was the original Psycho. So it was, Jimmy Case was in there. Glenn Cockrell was Chris Nichols' first signing a couple of months after I started. Alan Shearer was a year below me. So I made my debut in '86. Alan made his in 1988. And we had a good mixture of really good experienced players, but we also had some good young players coming through. So Alan came through, Rodney Wallace, myself, Jason Dodd, Franny Benali, Neil Maddison came through at the same time. So we had a real conveyor belt of youth team players that kind of made it up into the first team. It was great.
It was a really good setup. I mean, see, I've spoke to, I mean, you mentioned Lundic Vam. I spoke to, who was it? Brett Ormerod. There was one extra as well. And yourself. And you all went on to have testimonials. That's unheard of now. Out of that whole generation of players, eh?
Yeah. Franny had one, Jason had one, I had one, Klaus had one. We're probably, I mean, I can't think of too many other football clubs that have had so many testimonials in the last 25 years. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And we also had Calvin Davis at Saints, who was after my time, but he also spent a long time there. And yeah, it's been it's a lovely club, and it does kind of tempt you to want to stay.
Yeah, it's very close to your heart. You can see it, and obviously as we go through this. But can you recall? And did you play in a game? I've got scored first 2 competitive goals, beating Man United 4-1, and that was the game that effectively Ron Atkinson ended up losing his job off the back of it.
Yeah, yeah. I actually had this conversation with Sir Alex Ferguson a couple of weeks ago at Loch Lomond, and we were at the same charity golf function, and we had this conversation that my first ever goals for Southampton were in that game where we beat Man United 4-1, and it got Ron Atkinson the sack, and obviously Man United went out and appointed Sir Alex. So I was trying to tell him that he kind of owed me a drink or two, really, because I got him that job.
Drink, but he just throw it at you
like a lead balloon.
I mean, it's great to all these connections that you're already building up and still keeping in contact with. Yeah.
It's lovely, yeah. I get to go to some lovely, charity functions, lovely golf days, get to play some lovely golf courses, and we kind of catch up with a lot of old friends, players that I was in the England squad with. So, Ian Wright was up there, Les Ferdinand was up there. It was it was lovely just to kind of just sit and chat and reminisce about the old times. So it's nice. Kenny Dalglish was up there as well. Some absolute legends of the game, really.
So who's the best golfer then? Are you going to say yourself then?
I don't know. I've played with better footballers who are good golfers. Another Scotsman, actually, Paul Telfer, who I played with at Saints. He played up at Celtic for a bit with Gordon Strachan. He's probably the best footballer golfer that I've ever played with. I think he's off of +1 or +2 at the moment. So yeah, he's pretty good. Jimmy Bullard, played against Jimmy a couple of times. Jimmy's a pretty useful golfer, although I did beat him last time. Just saying. He did give me 3 shots. He did give me 3 shots, to be fair. So he wants a rematch at some point.
Doesn't count. No, it's amazing. Some of the characters. I'm just going to move on. I've put down again, highlighted some names, and you were alongside Neil Ruddock at one point as well. Is that right?
Yeah. Neil came to Southampton quite early on in his career. I think it was probably only about 2021 when he came. I'd already known Neil though, because I'd actually been to Brazil on an England under 19 or under 20 trip, I think it was. So we had a couple of weeks in Brazil, and Neil was on the same trip, so I kind of knew him before he joined Saints, and he was with us for a couple of seasons, and then obviously went on to bigger and better things, as a lot of them did. When they had a good spell at Southampton, they found themselves at Spurs or Man United or Liverpool, or and fair play to them. They had some good careers.
But you stuck to you never wanted to leave. So the whole time you were there, there was never any time where you thought, "Oh, I've got to chat." But I mean, did you? Did you ever get that?
Yeah, I mean, I nearly joined Spurs when I was 21.
Younger then,
that was pretty close. Obviously that was my team as a boy. My dad supported Spurs, so it's quite tempting. But at the end of the day, I decided not to for family reasons. And to this day, I don't have any regrets about spending my whole career at Southampton at all. I love the place. Managed to keep them in the Premier League for my entire career, which given the fact that we were one of the smallest clubs in the league with the smallest budget, smallest crowds, we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, it was great times there. I mean, the times that you were there, it's only now when you look back, when you're finished, and I'm going to mention next. So you're 22-year-old, 1989-90 season, PFA Player of the Year, 20 league goals. Southampton finished 7th that season. I think that was the best in 5 years. Does that sound a bit right?
Yeah.
I mean, can you remember? I've wrote in here: beat QPR 4-1, Liverpool 4-1, Norwich 4-1, Luton 6-3. What can you recall of that whole season? I mean, you're 22-year-old.
I mean, that was so I was 21 during that season, because it was kind of 89-90. So I didn't turn 22 until the October of the following season. And that's when that was when I won the PFA Young Player of the Year. I think I scored 24 goals that season. But I remember just playing in this team, and we were just like really a very attacking side. We would play a lot of the times. We were playing like 4-2-4, because me and Rodney Wallace were playing as wingers. Alan Shearer and Paul Rideout were up front. You had kind of Jimmy Case, Glenn Cockrell in midfield, or Barry Horn, and we just had a really free flowing style about us. We conceded a lot of goals as well, don't get me wrong, but we did score a heck of a lot of goals that season. Rodney got 23 goals, I think, that year as well.
Is that the same Rod Wallace that went on to play up for Rangers?
That's the very same one. Yeah, very same one. He went to Leeds first.
I can remember that, because he played with Rangers near the latter part of his career, and he'd done a good job up here as well. I'm sure there was one or two seasons.
He scored a few goals for Rangers. Yeah, he scored a few goals. He did well at Leeds. He left us to go to Leeds, and they won the he was in the team that won the First Division Championship the last year, before it became the Premier League.
It shows how there's so many different connections. I've got down the following season, 35 league appearances, so you're really establishing yourself in the team now. 19 league goals, 3 FA Cup appearances with 2 goals, 4 League Cup appearances with 2 goals. I think in total you played 43 games and scored 23 goals. I mean, you're really starting to hit your peak now, and that was Nichol's final season in charge as well.
Yeah, it was. It just kind of goes to show where the club have gone, really, because I think we finished like 15th that season or something, 14th or 15th, and that was bad enough to get in the sack. I mean, if Southampton finished 14th or 15th in the Premier League now, I mean, the manager would probably get a new contract.
I love going through all these different parts, and you speak to players that I think the youngest one was Matt Jarvis, and he was telling me how different, everything that was in place for him. But you guys just had to get on with it, and if you had a bad game, your players and colleagues would tell you. You had no coaching or anything like that to help mentally.
No, it was certainly a very different time, a far simpler time, actually. And I don't always think that everything that's changed has been for the good of the game either.
No.
I think a lot. I look at the players now, and although the players are kind of super fit and look like real athletes now, the problem with that is I think they can actually be too finely tuned. And they're not actually robust enough to cope with playing the amount of games that they're being asked to play. And that's why you see players being rested and injuries being picked up. And, I do feel like when I look back at the players in the kind of 70s and 80s and 90s, they were more robust than the players
Yep.
that you've got now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I spoke to the guys, and they've, like you say, for 60s, 70s, 80s, and in the early 90s, and they all say the same. They've done like 50, 60 games a season, but not one of them has said to me, "Oh, some season we were tired. They just got on with it. They were scared to actually come out the team in case they couldn't get back in it."
Exactly right. Exactly right. That was because we had a lot smaller squads in those days as well. You didn't have 2 players in every position. The manager would have his starting 11, and then he might have kind of 7 or 8 players after that, and you needed some real utility players amongst them, because you just didn't carry squads that had 2 internationals in every position in your team. It just didn't happen.
No, it's crazy now when you see it. I mean, the guys that can't even get a game for the club teams, and then they're getting called up for the international teams. I think that should be banned. That unless you're playing, you can't pick somebody and drops. No, that's just where you suffered, because we're picking guys that, and when they pick you, how many caps did you make? England caps.
I only got 8 England caps.
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Just
And
the 8.
does that's trying to bother you when you see what you've done up until? I mean, you're only 24 here. And you see what you've done, and you're not getting called up here. It must be so frustrating, eh?
I know. Yeah, I'd scored over 100 goals for Southampton before I got called up to the England team.
It's terrible.
And it was quite interesting. I saw a stat on social media the other day. Because Bruno Fernandes had got to 100 goals for Manchester United, and it had taken him 296 games, I think, to do it, which is pretty good. And they put up a stat of Premier League midfielders who had been the quickest to score 100 goals for their club, and I was number 1 on that list, and it only took me 214 games to score my first 100 goals for Southampton, and I didn't even realise I got to it that quick.
And that's at Southampton, not at, like, in all due respect, to top 6 or whatever. It's some achievement there.
Yeah, I was proud of that.
Definitely should be. So the following season, we've got 24-year-old, 25-year-old, 1991-92 season. 32 matches you played in the league. You scored 6 goals, and Ian Branfoot took over, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
How did you get on with Ian?
Nah, I mean, we got on all right as people. We had completely different ideas on how football should be played. He was very much the opposite of Chris Nicol. Chris was happy for us to be, getting the ball on the deck, playing lovely, free-flowing, attacking football, whereas Ian just wanted to go route one, smash it in the corners, try and get throw-ins and corners, and try and win matches that way. I mean, there wasn't a lot of football being played, and the crowd got a bit impatient with Ian. There were a lot of protests about the football that we were seeing, and I mean, you can see in my numbers there. I went from scoring 24 goals one season, 23 goals the following season, and the next season I ended up scoring 6 league goals.
So
I scored a load in this. I scored a load in the Zenith Data Systems Cup that season as well. I think we got to the final of the Zenith Data, so I scored a load of goals in that, which boosted my tally a little bit. But in terms of league goals, it was absolutely shocking.
And it must be so frustrating when you're at a club, you're doing well, everything, and then something like that changes. And how difficult is it when a manager's telling you to play a certain way, and you can know within the dressing room the team actually don't believe in that style? It must be so difficult to try and play your football, eh?
It is. It's very frustrating, actually. Really frustrating. I can just remember almost having to go out and basically disregard what the manager was saying, because for a start, it wasn't really working. We weren't winning loads of football matches. We weren't scoring loads of goals, and so I was one of those players who was happy to kind of go against what the manager was saying if I thought that it was better for the team, if I actually tried to play football. And so that didn't go down too well with him, and he dropped me on a few occasions. And there was one particular time he dropped me for 5 games. Not just dropped me to the bench, dropped me completely out the squad.
Terrible.
And he ended up not winning any of those matches. We got knocked out of the League Cup by Shrewsbury, I think it was. And he had to bring me back because the fans were clamouring for me to get back in the team. And I came back in the team for a game against Newcastle that was live on Sky at the Dell. and scored probably two of the best goals of my career
Was that game?
in the same game.
Yeah, I remember that. I didn't realise that was right off the back of that, the same game, though. It's amazing, it must be. When we're going through it on that, and I've got here, right, 92, 93. So Ian's still in charge then, yeah? Did he stay? How long was he?
Yeah, first year in the Premier League. That was our first year in the Premier League. Yeah, he was still in charge. I think we stayed up about 1 or 2 games from the end of the season. I think we were saying.
Yep, that's where I've got. I avoided it by 1 point. I've put, and you played 44 times that season, and only Tim Flowers done more appearances that season with 46.
Yeah, yeah. It was that was our first season in the Premier League, and I didn't do too bad. I think I ended up scoring 15 league goals. I think.
Hang on.
Which wasn't a bad return, which is probably why I stayed in the team a bit longer that season under Ian. And then, we kind of, I think we ended up losing on the last day of the season to Oldham, and Oldham stayed up because they beat us on the last day of the season. We were safe already, but I remember scoring a hat-trick on the last day of the season and losing 4-3. And that actually happened. That actually happened to me twice in my Premier League career. I scored 2 hat-tricks for Saints and ended up losing 4-3 both times. I think I'm still the only player to this day who has scored 2 Premier League hat-tricks and been on the losing team.
It's terrible. There's no need there. It's like, you still get to keep the ball, though.
Yeah, I still got the balls. Yeah, still got them.
That's not so bad, no. It's not so bad. So Alan Ball took charge after that, and I've got in that season he's avoided relegation again, but it was right to the death again. That was just to give a wee bit of insight. I've put in here Alan Ball took charge in January '94. Is that sounds about right?
Yeah. Yeah, Ian Bradford got sacked in January. I think after we got knocked out the FA Cup. I think by, I want to say maybe Port Vale, something like that, and that was the last straw. Then we had one game against Coventry where we had a caretaker manager, so Dave Merrington was in charge for that. We beat them 1-0 with a penalty. It was a horrible game, but I scored the winning goal in that from the penalty spot. And then Alan Ball took over the next game, and that was away at Newcastle. Was our first game, and we went to Newcastle and beat them 2-1. I scored the winner from a free kick. And
Newcastle I've got,
yeah, we were in a lot of trouble when Alan took over. Actually, I think we were kind of I think we might have been bottom of the league or maybe second bottom. And so it was a real struggle to kind of catch the teams in front of us. And like you say, we eventually managed to stay up in the last day of the season. We drew 3-3 at West Ham. And I think had we lost that game by 2 goals, I think we would have got relegated. So yeah, that was a pretty close shake, that one.
Definitely, but it's a fine margins, But I'm just trying to look what I've wrote in here. Was that your highest scoring season? Because I've played 38 league games, 25 goals. Was that 93-94 season?
Yeah, that was my highest amount of goals I scored in the Premier League in one season. Yeah, or the First Division. Yeah, so that's
something going for Southampton. Like that's.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good considering, like you say, we stayed up on the last day of the season, so I wasn't playing in a successful team. And 25 goals in 38 games was pretty special. But that time under Alan Ball, that was the best. That was the best period of my career by a million miles. He was brilliant for me. He was only there for 18 months, unfortunately, but that was the best 18 months of my career. And I ended up scoring, I think under Ball, it was 45 goals in 64 games.
That's it, and that makes a difference when you're playing with somebody, a manager that you're working with. You look at the difference when we just go back a few seasons to Brand. It's mad.
Exactly right.
So I've written in here now 27. Right, you've got 20 league goals, 5 FA Cup goals, 5. This is the thing, you got your England call-up.
England debut actually in the 93-94 season. So I think it was March '94. So that season I got 25 goals. That was when I got called up for the first time.
So how does that all come about then? I mean, we're talking here, this wasn't a mobile phone time, so obviously you didn't get a pigeon, but did you get a phone call?
So I got called into the manager's office at the training ground at Southampton. And I'm pretty sure it was Alan Ball that told me that I'd been put in the England squad. So Terry Venables had called Alan to let him know, and Alan had passed that message on to me.
Fantastic, eh? And it's great. And I mean, were your family or at your debut for England and everything like that?
Oh
Did they
yeah,
all,
yeah,
that must be
yeah.
awesome,
They
eh?
all went
That,
up,
even back then,
all
eh?
went up to Wembley. Yeah, I think there was about half of Guernsey were at Wembley that night, so that was pretty cool.
They saying that's fine. Though, like I mean, you've always stuck to your roots. You've always loved Guernsey. You're back and forth to Guernsey quite a lot. I see you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my parents are still back there. All my brothers are back there. My eldest daughter lives back there, so I've got a lot of ties back there, and I've always been very grateful for the upbringing that I had in Guernsey, and I love the island, and I'm sure one day in the not too distant future, I might end up going back there permanently.
Yeah, and go back to where it all began. Player of the Year award. That was 3 times you'd won that for Southampton by the age of 27. Then, eh?
Yeah, I think I'm still the only player to this day who's won the Player of the Year 3 times. I think there was a couple of players that won it twice. I think Tim Flowers won it twice. I think Peter Shilton won it twice.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's still nobody's overtaken my record yet. So yeah, it's another one that I'm quite proud of.
And what's it like going about Southampton? I mean, you mustn't get a minute's peace, eh? In a good way, I mean, but you know what I mean.
No, it's actually all right. I still wander around town on occasions, and I just go about living my life as normally as I've always done, really. And occasionally people might want to stop you, but they're not that bad down here. They're very respectful of your personal space, and yeah, and it's very rare actually if I go out that somebody will stop me now. I mean, I am 56 now, so most of them aren't old enough to remember seeing me play.
That's it is. And we're getting. I feel that too. It's like honestly, just the time just flies by. I mean, we're looking back here to 95, 96 season, and you're taking back. You're nearly 30 years back now already. It's mad as it goes. Can I touch into Graham Souness being the manager and how all that came about? I mean, you mentioned Dave Merrington as well, but he was more short term, eh?
Yes, Dave was just there for one season. We stayed up again on the last day of the season under Dave, but he lost his job, and then Graham Souness took over, and again we stayed up on the last day of the season. But I think probably Graham's
Cool.
one season at Southampton was probably remembered more for two other things. We had a fantastic victory against Manchester United where we beat them 6-3.
Yeah,
And Graham was in charge of that one. And the other notable thing that happened that season was George Weah's cousin made his debut in the Premier League.
So go and tell that story.
So yeah, for those of you who don't know, we were obviously we didn't have a lot of money at Southampton, so we always had trialists coming in and training with us from time to time. So it wasn't unusual. And then one day this kid came in training. Now we didn't know the backstory to this, obviously, when he comes in training. But what happened was that George Weah, who was, I think, was World Player of the Year at the time, apparently he'd rung into Southampton, spoke to Graham Souness' secretary because we were all out training, and said, "Look," he said, "I want to speak to Graham Souness. You know, my cousin is in Southampton. He's a really good footballer." He said, "I think Graham should take a look at it." So when Graham came in after training, Graham was like, "Oh, George Weah's rang, is he? I better ring him back." So he rings him, and George Weah goes, "Graham, my cousin is in Southampton. His name is Ali Dia. He's a really good footballer. I think you should have a look at him." So anyway, this kid comes in training. So we don't know about this at this particular point. Now, as professional footballers, you know within about 10 or 15 minutes whether a player can play or not, right? Just by the way he moves, the way his first touch, all that kind of stuff. And after about 15 minutes, I'm watching this kid joining this training session with us, and I'm thinking, what the hell is he doing here? He can't trap a bag of cement. It was absolutely shocking, right? And I was like, what's going on here? I honestly thought he'd won a competition in the local paper to come train with us, right? Because he was that bad. So anyway, he trained for a few days leading up to this game against Leeds, and we turn up for the game against Leeds, go and take my place in the change room at 1:30 on the Saturday afternoon. It's a 3:00 kickoff, and I was sat down in the change room and I looked across and he sat in the corner, Ali Dia. Right? I was like, oh my God, I looked at the lads. I went, my God, I said, that must have been some competition he won. He's going to get rid of the team talk and everything. And then Graham Souness comes in, he names the team, and he goes, on the bench is Robbie Slater and Ali Dia. And I was like, oh my God, what on earth is going on here? So anyway, we get an injury after about half an hour. and I look over to the touchline, and there he is. He's warmed up. He's got his kit off. He's ready to come on the pitch. And I was like, oh my God. So anyway, he comes on the pitch, runs around like a headless chicken for about 45 minutes. And eventually Graham Souness realises this kid can't play. And one of the worst things that can ever happen to you as a professional footballer is if you come on as a substitute and then you get substituted yourself, right? It did happen to me once. It's horrible, right? And it's just the worst thing. And so yeah, he got substituted, and he's ultimately gone down as probably the worst ever player to play in the Premier League in history.
Some of the stories,
which is crazy, really, because and the worst bit about that story is that the bloke that he came on as a sub for was me.
so you had to come off. It's not your career highlight. Eh? I was speaking to Laurie Sanchez, and he was telling me about the story about the teletext kid. I don't know if you can remember that. They put an advert up on the teletext at the time because there were 3 or 4 strikers down. And
yes.
then Roy Essendon, I think his name was in.
Yeah, this was at Wickham, wasn't it?
That's right. It's just so different when you hear the stories nowadays.
Crazy. Crazy.
Brilliant. But it was a great time to play in that because now
I loved it.
You imagine trying to play, and I mean, you're on Twitter and whatnot a lot, but you imagine trying to play and having to stay off that and the abuse you get and everything. It's horrendous. Eh?
Yeah. No, I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't swap the era that I played in.
No, I think you played in the best era as well. I mean, I feel like I'm Dane's name dropping, but I'm speaking to guys that you played with as well. Against was Lee Clark as well. Played against him, and he was saying the same. He says the Premiership was brilliant at the time. Eh? Brilliant times.
Absolutely superb. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we had a lot of fun. Nobody was taking it that seriously, and and I think the entertainment was probably a bit better than it is in this day and age with this game of chess that they play now.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, they've got everything now. They've got ref watch, they've got this watch, that watch, decisions. It's changed the game totally.
Yeah.
When you were playing it yourself. Was that the same season that Ayo Berkovic and Egil Ostenstad joined as well, and Kos Lundekvam?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, yeah. Those boys. That was interesting. Actually, we had again. I'm talking about the trialists that we had, but we had 2 Norwegian centre forwards who came on trial. One of them was Egil Ostenstad, and after a week, the manager had to make a decision on which one he bought because we could only afford one of them, and obviously he chose Egil Ostenstad, who did pretty well for us. But the other player that we couldn't afford at the time, who had to go somewhere else, was Torre Andre Flo.
Yep, and he ended up coming up to Scotland for about £12 million. I can remember it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was a very good player as well, but we just couldn't afford him, unfortunately.
Yeah, it just shows the way. But I mean, Lundekvam was brilliant for you. Was he your best captain? Do you feel?
I mean, Jimmy Case when I first got there was a brilliant captain. Glenn Cockrell also really good captains. Yeah, I played under some really good captains. I was captain myself, but I don't think I was a very good captain, to be honest. That wasn't really my bag. But Klaus was up there amongst all the best captains that I played with. He did great service to the club. I think he was there probably I think it was 11 years or something like that. And so he would be up amongst the best captains I played with there.
That's brilliant. Eh? So Dave Jones became the manager. You finished top scorer again. I've got down 26 league appearances. Did you have an injury? Because you only had 26 league appearances, 11 goals.
Yeah, I did. I broke my arm. I shattered my elbow joint at the start of the season.
Right.
And that kept me out for quite a few weeks. So that was a bit frustrating, a little bit annoying. So that season was a bit stop-start-ish. That was 97-98 season, aren't we? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, and you still finished top scorer though.
So the first half of the season was kind of marred by injuries a little bit, but I finished that season really strong, and I ended up scoring quite a lot of goals towards the back end of the season as the '98 World Cup approached, and then I also scored the hat-trick in the England B game that Glenn Hoddle arranged against Russia. I think I finished that season, including that hat trick for England, with I think I scored 10 goals in the last 12 games or something. It was a pretty good finish, but unfortunately, still wasn't good enough to get in the World Cup squad.
Yeah, that's typical, eh? And you see it all over, and that's one thing that still goes on yet. If there's a player like yourself, I mentioned it before, that played with Southampton, or you can take any teams for around about the sort of bottom 10 part of the league, they won't get selected over guys, and it's so frustrating. And I think that's where actually, speaking for England, but I mean, I think that's where England lack. Every World Cup that happens, And then you see when they get to the advanced stages, you're saying we should have had him, and that's what it is. But that's one of the sacrifices you had to give up to play and have the long career with Southampton, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can we touch into Gordon Strachan, fellow Scott? How was Gordon to work with?
Well, I only had Gordon for the last, it was like the last 7 or 8 months of my career. And fortunately, I didn't have to do a pre-season under Gordon because apparently they were pretty brutal, and I'm not sure my body could have coped. So I ended up retiring at the end of Gordon's first season. But he was brilliant. You know, I loved him. I loved it the way that he was so brutally honest in his press conferences. You know, if the reporter asked a stupid question, Gordon wasn't afraid to give him a stupid answer back or tell him how stupid he was being. And I thought he was incredibly entertaining. And I had a lot of time for Gordon. In fact, I saw him at a different golf day about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was great to catch up with him again. Got a lot of time for Gordon. Yeah, a lot of respect for that man.
It was brilliant. Because I get you, I'm getting a bit scattered here because I've got your whole career written down, Matt. But were you in the team that must have been right near the end of your career when they got to the final, Southampton? Were you there at that time, or was that just after?
That was the season after I retired. So I retired in 2002. And yeah, the following season we got to the FA Cup final. I'd spent 16 years trying to get to a cup final, and eventually we do it the season after I retired, which was absolutely sickening for me. And I had to do the TV coverage for Sky that day as well, so I was actually at the stadium, and I can just remember. So the Sky box was at the Arsenal end, so kind of when I went out on the balcony at 5-3, and I looked across the stadium, I just see this sea of yellow and blue, which is what the colours we were playing in that day. And I can just remember at 5-3 looking down, seeing all my mates on the pitch just about to play an FA Cup final, and I just absolutely bawled my eyes out. I just couldn't stop crying. Yeah, I was gutted, absolutely gutted, but delighted for the lads that were getting the chance to do that.
Yeah, but it's fantastic times. Could I ask, could you name your best sort of team players that you played with in a 4-4-2 formation? And if it's okay, could you pick yourself on that team as well, please?
Oh, of course, I'd pick myself.
You've got to. What if you're like that? I'm not sure. I'm like that. First pick me.
So I would say the best goalkeeper was Tim Flowers.
Yeah.
You know, I did play with Peter Shilton, but Pete was kind of coming towards the back end of his career, really, when I played with him. I think Tim was a better goalkeeper when I played with him. Right back, I would go with Jeff Kenner, who went on to win the Premier League with Blackburn. Left back, I would go with Derek Statham. You've got to be quite old to remember Derek. He's even older than me. But he came to Southampton for 1 season. He was amazing. He won the Player of the Year the season he was there, but he had bad knees. He was coming towards the end of his career. Centre backs is an interesting one because we had a lot of decent centre backs, I thought, that I played alongside. You know, Klaus Lundekman will be up there. Dean Richards, God bless his soul, he would be up there. And Mark Wright, who was in the team when I first got there. He was also an outstanding centre back. So I'd probably go with Mark Wright and probably Dean Richards, with Klaus very close. And then in midfield, well, the 2 wide players would be me and Rodney Wallace. The 2 centre midfielders, I would go with a lad called Ronnie Eklund, who had a season at Saints in the mid-90s on loan from Barcelona. He was a brilliant player, got on great with him, had a great relationship on the pitch with him. We knew exactly, you know, the wavelength that each other was on. So he'd be one of my centre midfielders. I think I'd go. Jimmy Case would have to be in the team. I think for me, and then up front, I would say Marian Pahars for 100% would be one of the players up front. He was probably the most gifted player that I played alongside at Saints. Yeah, he would do things on a training ground that even I would go, wow, how's he done that? And that didn't happen very often, I can tell you. And then, see, it would be between kind of Alan Shearer and James Beattie, I think, because Alan wasn't great at Southampton. Alan kind of got better when he left Southampton, and I thought Beach did an unbelievable job for the 5 or 6 years he was here. It might have been 7 years, and he almost won the Golden Boot one season. So it would be between them two. I mean, probably because of what Alan went on to achieve in his career, I'd have to pick Alan.
Yeah, some team though. So after your playing career, I've noted down here, I love this. On the former site of the Dell, the names of apartment blocks on their Southampton legends. One is named Le Tissier Court. How do you feel about that? That must be ace, eh?
Yeah, that is pretty cool. That I've kind of left a bit of a legacy there at the old stadium. I always feel quite sad when I drive past it. And I, you kind of still after all these years expecting the stadium to be still there, and so many great memories from my career, and it's a shame that the old place isn't still up. I love that old ground
because your memories are all in there. And I was saying that to Yap Stam just earlier today, and he was talking about the San Siro potentially getting knocked down. And he said that, he says, I feel so detached. He says, as much as he says, but everything I created was in that stadium, and I still love the club. He says, but it's different, and the fans feel it as well. And so I move at the times, obviously, but
yeah,
I've got in here though at the new stadium at St Mary's. You've got a hospitality suite named Le Tissier as well.
There is, there's a suite named after me there, so that's also pretty cool. So I think just it's nice that you've done something at a football club that people still remember years after you've kind of finished. It's a nice legacy to leave.
I think as well, if you look at it, you might have went to Tottenham, you might have went on to win a trophy here and there, maybe moved on to that, but you've left like you say, you've left a legacy here. And in all due respect, there's guys that have won a couple of trophies, but nobody remembers them as fondly as they remember yourself. Eh? So you've got no regrets. Eh?
No
I love
regrets.
this, right? I love this, right? A plane in a certain fleet was named after Le Tissier on his home island of Guernsey. Is that right? You've got a plane named Le Tissier.
There was, yeah. So Fly B, they flew between obviously Southampton and Guernsey, as well as many other places. But they named a few of their planes after footballers. So George Best had one named after him, and they did one for me as well, which was pretty cool. I never thought as a kid growing up in Guernsey I'd ever have a plane named after me. That's for sure.
Brilliant. Eh? So, for following on from there, you ended up at Sky Sports for 15 years. You were at Sky Sports. How do you feel about it all now?
I mean, I miss working with the lads that I worked with. They were great fun to work with. We had a lot of laughs every Saturday. Absolutely loved it. I don't miss working for the company, if I'm honest. It all got a bit too political. You had to do the right thing, say the right thing, don't say anything out of line, don't have a laugh, because people don't want to see that. I don't miss working for the company, but I do miss working with the lads that I've worked with for many, many years.
It was great times. It was brilliant seeing you on it and that as well. Eh? And that was all round about sort of Chris Kamara came in and everything. Chris Kamara, I mean, what a shame. He's had a hell of a time as well over the last few days. It's tough times, but I'm just written down here. So, I mean, the relationships with presenters, and can we touch into Jamie Carragher? Do you two even talk now, or is it just like
no? The last time we talked was when Jamie rang me. I was in London a couple of years ago, and he just verbally abused me down the phone for about 10 minutes while I just sat there and listened and calmly took it all in. And asked him a few questions, and so we haven't seen each other since, and we haven't spoken since. I don't intend to ever speak to Jamie Carragher again, if I'm honest, and it's not going to be something that I'm going to miss, quite frankly.
Here's a question for you, right? And again, we'll see if you want to answer it, but I'll go with it. Did tweets give a platform for more trouble, or are they better for expressing your views? How do you feel, like, tweeting out on the social media platform?
I think the social media platform can be useful. I think it can be construed in a lot of different ways. I think the problem with it sometimes is it lacks a bit of context, and there are, as I've learned, there are certain things that can be taken the wrong way. You try to put across a point of view, but it comes across to somebody else as something different. and it's not like you're having a face-to-face conversation. So I get that it can be quite confusing at times. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's here. It's not a lot you can do about it. It's all around us, and I've used it to voice my concern at what's going on in the country at the moment. And if people have gone and looked into things that I've maybe flagged up, and it's made them a little bit more aware of what's going on in the country, then it's a force for good.
It's worth it. I mean, it's the one platform that you can actually express your views. I mean, the mainstream media you've talked about and how things are controlled in that. I mean, it's such a deeper conversation, but I think as certain platforms and guys like yourself are putting points across, you can see it.
Yeah, we're finding out quite quick. Don't worry about that.
It's on the cards. It's getting closer and closer. So, what's let me just bear with me. Let me see where I am. Are you got another autobiography anytime soon? I think that would be something that I think a lot of people would be really into. Or would you not be allowed to write it? How does it work?
I'd have to probably publish it myself. The publishing houses probably won't touch me because I've barely done a TV interview for the last 5 years. Like TalkSport used to ring me up every time there was a Southampton story going on. I would be the first person they'd ring up, and I think they've rang me once in the last 5 years. And even that was about penalty shootouts when we were in the build up to one of the World Cups. And even then, they wouldn't let me speak live on the radio. They had to do they pre-recorded it just to make sure I didn't say anything controversial, apparently.
That's shocking. It's terrible, honestly. And I see it. I mean, see with some of the guests I speak to, not most recent ones, but some of the guests I've spoke to, you have to run everything by what you're going to say, so that they can make sure they say the right thing. And it's annoying because we're in a place where we're here, we're sitting like this. You're Guernsey, Southampton, up here in Scotland. We should be able to chat, and it's my view and it's your view. It doesn't need to be right or wrong, but
exactly. But the mainstream media don't allow that. They have a narrative that they have to stick to, and then anybody who goes a little bit rogue, they end up losing their jobs, like me, and getting punished, and then getting attacked for their views, and trying to have their character assassinated, because can't have anybody going against the whole groupthink of the media. It's a shocking world when your eyes are open to it all.
They said when the internet came about as well, they said, it'll cause so much good in life, and we're experiencing it now. But then the bad side of it is the other side that we see, and it's a shame, Matt, but it's a tough world to bring your kids up in, I can tell you that.
Yeah, it certainly is. Certainly is.
Well, can I just say thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to have a chat with you. I'll let you end, and then I'll end the video by just a wee message to Southampton fans, anybody that maybe isn't able to get out and hear for you as much.
Oh, Southampton! I was with a load of them last night. I went up to Sheffield to watch us beat Sheffield United last night on the fans' coaches, and we have some brilliant away support. The Southampton fans have always been magnificent to me. The support that I've had during my career, and still to this day when I go to the stadium, they treat me so well. So I can only say a huge thank you to them, and they were one of the reasons why I stayed at the club so long.